Welcome back to Farming Simulator 22. So I'm doing a bit of testing and I thought I'd make a video of it. I was reading the Farm Sim Academy on ploughing and cultivating and the effect that has on weeds and rocks, and I wanted to do some testing for myself, so I thought I would video it. So what we have here is a big field that I have harvested, and then I've got some ploughed land, some ploughed plus cultivated, ploughed plus disked, ploughed with a no-till planter, and some other bits down there, and we're going to go through each one and explain what they should do. So starting off with just ploughed, our ploughed land should give us a higher yield, small stones only, which is what these are, which you can just roll back in. I haven't, or you can use rock picker on them. I'm not worried about the stones. But importantly, what I want to test, no weeds. So I have weed switched on, and we should, in theory, not get any weeds when we let time progress. So let's plant a strip, and we're going to go through each of these options, and I'll explain what each option should give us, and see what happens when we speed up time and let them grow. So this took me a while to set up. I don't know if I will have shown any of that footage when I do the edit, but I'll go through each of the things anyway. So we're still getting the small stones behind us, which could be damaging the cedar more, but you can put a roller over them to get rid of those. So that's just ploughed. Next we have ploughed plus cultivated. If we look out for a cultivator, we should have small stones still, which we do. And this, actually this is what is classed as a shallow cultivator, which should give you no stones, but as we ploughed it, we already had stones. I have a strip over there which is just cultivated without being ploughed. This should give us more weeds. So what I'm wondering is, if we have ploughed it and then we cultivate it, do we get weeds? Because if we do, maybe you just want to plough. So we'll test that as well. And next we're going to go on to a disc harrow. So it's been ploughed and then disked, and that should also be more weeds, and doesn't give you any more stones than what we've got from ploughing. I'm planting all of these with canola because that's what I can plant today, and then we'll just speed up time through and see what happens with the weeds. The other interesting one is what's happened with the stones where I haven't ploughed, and we'll look at that in a little while. We have subsoiled, we have cultivated, and we have disked. Now my plan is to cover the 8 different combinations that I can get from what I have. We'll just let this run to the end, and then we'll jump down to the sections that have not been ploughed. So this is not a direct drill. We'll come on to a direct drill. So down here we have first subsoiled. So the subsoiler should give a higher yield. It should give large stones and weeds. I don't see any stones in what I have subsoiled. I have seen people comment that there is an issue. Is that actually planting? Yeah, our texture's not very nice. That you don't get large stones at the moment, that there's something wrong with the large stones. So that's really hard to spot, isn't it, that you've actually seeded into that. So I'm also running the enhanced vehicle, which kind of gives me GPS, so you'll see that in the bottom left. Handy little tool. So yeah, this should give us weeds, and we should have had larger stones, which we didn't. So next we have shallow cultivated. I haven't done a straight cultivator. The only real difference is so this should give us no stones, which it has. So we don't have stones. If we had done a normal cultivator, we would have got small stones, and this gives us more weeds. So we'll see what this gives. And then next to that we have disked, which we will run over. Disked should give us more weeds, so the same amount of weeds as the shallow cultivator, and no stones. And both of those have in fact given us no stones. Kind of hoping that I can get the game sound to come through. It's very quiet. Yeah, so this is the disc one. Other options which I haven't looked at are power harrows, which are basically the same as disking or shallow cultivating, and a spader, which is basically the same as ploughing. Really don't like that texture. Well, they do talk about yield effects as well, but I'm not going to cover those in this video anyway. I'm interested in particularly the weeds, because I don't like how FS22 does weeds, but turning them off is also not something that I like. I'm just going to park this in our neighbour's cotton field and jump into the 7R, which has a Valistad Direct seeder on the back. So we're going to do a strip into some ploughed land and see what that gives, and a strip into harvested land. So direct sowing should give you more weeds, and should also give you, just getting my GPS set, more weeds and no stones. So obviously we have stones on here because we have already ploughed it, but that should be, we'll see. We may get no weeds because we've ploughed it. We may get weeds because it's a no-till, and that means it gives you weeds. That's like, I have no idea if anyone else is interested in this stuff. We'll see if people actually watch it, but I wanted to understand this before I got into playing, so I'm testing it. Embracing my inner Mr. CDP. But we'll now just run down here and put a strip in after our disc piece. So I'm really starting to like the enhanced vehicle simple GPS they've put in as well. It doesn't do implement width, but it does do heading, and it's working really nicely, I'm finding. So once this is in, I'm going to speed up time and pass a couple of days, and we'll see what happens. I'm really hoping that there is a way of not having weeds appear, although it would be a pain to have to do lots of ploughing. So, I'm going to speed up time. I will be back in a second. Well, this is very interesting. I have sped up time a day and we have our results. So this is straight ploughed. We have no weeds. We have crops growing. This is ploughed plus cultivated. We have no weeds. Ploughed and disked. We have no weeds. Direct seeded. We have no weeds. And if we look in the soil map, we can see that as well. That is just untilled harvested ground. We have some weeds growing. So this was subsoiled. And we should have weeds, which we do. this was shallow cultivated. We should have more weeds. Kind of hard to tell. There's quite a lot of weeds. And then we have disked. And again, this should be more weeds. Kind of hard to tell, I think. And then we have no-till. And we have weeds. So, I think that's answered my question. That if we plough first, we don't get weeds. I'm just going to speed up time a little bit more and check that they don't kick in slightly later in the growth process. So I have sped up time and run through until March. Still no weeds on the ploughed bits. And still weeds on the bits that we didn't plough. I find it quite hard to tell the difference between the amount of weed that we have on each of them. They are all showing as 100% on the field info. So I think if you get weeds, you get weeds with how FS22 works. The last thing I wanted to check is I have a roller here. I'm not sure if it's the correct roller, but I just want to see if we can roll these stones back in. We can. So that's really cool as well. That would mean we don't have stones causing issues when we come to harvest. And I think you can roll over the seedbed as well. Not a video on rolling, so just a little test at the end there. If you found this useful, drop me a comment, drop me a like, subscribe if you aren't, and catch you next time.